Hey guys, it's Coach Gaglione here from GaglioneStrength.com. We got another strong lady on the line today. Gracie, how you doing today?
Yeah, thanks for having me, John.
I appreciate you coming out and taking the time to be on the call today. First, met Gracie at the Westside Pro Invitational, which that was a little blast from the past, a fun time, and she was getting all fired up in her little canvas suit, throwing up some big numbers. And recently, you've kind of done some other stuff, but I think now kind of come full circle. You're kind of doing your own like kind of big meet now, which is really cool, which we'll definitely talk about. But for the people that are watching and maybe they don't know who you are, can you just give a little bit of background about yourself and what you got going on right now?
Yeah, a little bit of background on myself. I've been powerlifting for 6 or 7 years now. I started off competing multiply and have recently gone a little bit more into raw. I own a gym in San Diego, California, and I am the head coach for the DCS pack, which some of the lifters train in my gym. Most of them are remote clients around the world, but they all get coached together as a team. And we've got about 90 or so packsters right now. So yeah, I'm from a small town in Western Quebec. I'm an identical triplet. I'm a recovering addict. I just celebrated 10 years clean, and
Nice.
I just started barrel racing. I own a horse, and my husband is a Marine infantry, and I have two hairless cats. so, so you want to?
There we go. We got him in.
That's Nelly. So that's a little bit of a rundown.
They're pretty famous, I know. So. And congrats on being sober. So that's really awesome. And yeah, I know that's maybe something we'll get into later. But so I want to rewind a little bit. So how did you kind of first get into just strength training in general, and then when did you start like lifting weights, and how did you first kind of get into that?
Well, I was never athletic growing up. I snowboarded, but that was pretty much it. I was like too busy getting high and drunk. So I never played any sports of any sort. Whenever I was in my cat fight, whenever I was in my early 20s, around 2021, I wanted to like lose weight and just like kind of start to love my body a little bit better. I was like pretty miserable, and I weighed less than I do now, but I was like in really terrible shape anyway. So I joined Curves because I didn't know anything about working out or whatever, and that worked really well. And then eventually, like I kind of had taken it to its potential, and I hired a personal trainer, like a 24-hour style fitness gym at Good Life Fitness in Canada. And then that's where I found like weightlifting. I met a powerlifter in the gym, Barry Antonio, who's like a national bench press record holder, and yeah, I did my first powerlifting meet, and I was totally hooked after that. My first meet was CPU, which is like the Canadian branch of the IPF. And at the time, there was no raw. It was single ply only, but I competed raw. I qualified for provincials. My first meet, I went 9 for 9. It was a great time, and I had so much fun. And then from there, I found multiply. Like it was Kurt Haas from Ottawa, from Haas Conditioning. He was one of like the metal militia guys, and I would go up to Montreal and train with those guys. And yeah, that's how I found powerlifting. They're like, oh yeah, there's like more fun meets where they play music and stuff. And I'm like, and where you can like bench on your toes. I'm like, oh, that sounds pretty cool.
Nice.
So that's how I got into multiply. And then yeah, it's pretty much how I got started.
Cool. So was there ever kind of a defining moment where you're like, okay, well, I'm starting to be pretty good at this. I want to take this to the next level. Not that of course it's maybe always fun, but I want to take this a little more serious and maybe take my training to the next level. I don't want to just compete at a local level. I want to do some of these bigger meets. Like I said, we talked about in the beginning. You did the Westside Pro and all these things, and now you're doing some raw stuff too. So, when did you kind of decide I want to like put a little more focused time and energy into this, and kind of take your training to the next level, be a little more competitive?
Well, I was seeing AJ Roberts whenever I first got into powerlifting, and he was at the time like up and coming, like about to break the 308 all-time world record. And so like being around like the best lifters in the world, I was like, well, this is something I want to do, like
Yeah.
I want to take this just as far. So that had a huge influence on me. And so I just became like obsessed with powerlifting. I was around like-minded people who powerlifting was life. And that's whenever, so it wasn't long after I started, maybe 6 months or so after I did my first meet, that I was like, hey, like I'm ready to like only do this. Yeah.
Have you always been like had that kind of like driven mindset? Like, because I know obviously you have a business now, you have a gym. Have you always like if you do something, do you like to go like 100% and like really kind of do your best or?
Yeah, totally. Like and I've always been like that. Like once I make up my mind, like that's it. Like nobody can change my mind, and I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna do it quick. And so every time I make a decision, like shit starts rolling quick, and it's all in, definitely.
Cool. I love that. I think a lot of times people kind of like we say like don't just kind of dip your foot in the water, just like take the jump, like just go for it because
Yeah,
why not go 100% and see how far you can take it because otherwise you're never going to really know like your true potential. So I think that's really cool advice. So
yeah.
um, so I know you talked about your addiction a little bit. So one thing I always like to ask the people on the show: have you ever kind of dealt with any adversity, some setbacks? So obviously, I'm sure that was one. And then, what are some things you kind of did to like kind of overcome that, and how did you kind of deal with that?
With the addiction, you mean?
Yeah, you could start off with that for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Well, I mean, how I overcame my addiction, like I went to NA meetings, and that was the only thing that worked for me because I tried getting clean on my own so many times, and I could never stay clean. I get clean for a month, or 3 months, or a week, or a weekend, and I tried so many times, to get clean on my own. And it wasn't until like I decided to like actually do what the program says, which is like um, abstain from all mind altering substances, including alcohol and even drugs that were not my drug of choice. Like once I got clean from everything, then I was able to stay clean. I went to meetings regularly and I worked the 12 steps. I got a sponsor, I got a support group and like of women, and I used them, like I called them, and I worked the steps. So that's how I overcame that. And then throughout the years, like lifting has really saved my ass a lot when it came to staying clean and like just overcoming obstacles in my life. And yeah, and so now like it's not about like getting high anymore, but like it's just about life on life's terms, and there's always bullshit going on. And yeah, and that's something that definitely helps me get through a lot of shit, is lifting. Yeah.
Yeah. So, do you have any advice for someone that maybe is struggling with addiction and like what are some kind of steps they could take, or what's like the first thing that you would tell them to do if they realize they have a problem, they're not really sure like what the next step is? What would you tell them?
Oh well, the only thing I tell them is what I know, like to go to like 3 or 4 NA meetings, because the first one you go to might not be a great one, but
Right.
if you go to enough of them, like you'll hear something that you can definitely resonate with, and you'll know that you're at the right place. And that was the only thing, like I said, that helped me. Not just stay clean, like it's one thing to just like stop taking drugs, but if you want your quality of life to become better, and if you want to start loving yourself, and if you want to start living your life to its like fullest potential, then I really believe that there's a lot more work to be done than just stop using drugs. So
Right.
stopping using drugs. So yeah, I would suggest going to a few NA meetings. Usually the first one, like they'll be like, fuck. All these people, they've been there, like
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so
So you talked about surrounding yourself with like-minded people. Really kind of going all in with your business, with training. So how has powerlifting kind of helped you, not just physically but also mentally as well? And has that kind of helped you kind of stay clean and put your kind of energy into a more like positive focus throughout the years?
I don't know really how to explain it, but it takes a pretty fucked up person to be a powerlifter. And I've always said that, all of my clients, like everybody has a story.
Yeah.
Everybody's got some kind of a battle. And I'm sure you do, and I'm sure all of your clients do too, And so it just worked. It just worked for me. It works for me. It works for like everybody I know. And it just gives me an outlet, and it helps me cope, it just allows me to, push myself and to compete against myself. And because like in my weight class, the women who were at the top were hundreds of pounds above my total. So I was never competing against them. I was always competing for PRs and trying to push myself. So, yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I think what's great about powerlifting is obviously you compete against other people, but you always have that total you're trying to be. You're always trying to be a stronger, better version of yourself. So that self growth, that self improvement, I think really can carry over to other areas of your life, and it's gives you some positive focus. And like I said, what's great about um, lifting and just lifting with a barbell is you can kind of see that progress, especially as a beginner, week to week, and you kind of see yourself, see
Yeah.
that improvement. I think that's huge and kind of helps build some momentum, and it gives you like, okay, now I could focus on this area and kind of use that as like a platform for whether it's business, life, or relationships or anything else you do. So
And like, especially training conjugate, I've trained conjugate since day one. And like having all those variations like in my toolbox, like to go back and hit PRs each week, you know, because I would like wait a long time in between like retesting all those variations. But like we maxed out twice a week, so I'd be working up to 1 rep max twice a week, and I'd get a PR pretty much every time I maxed out because, you know, it'd been a while since I last did that variation.
Sure.
So that really helped me a lot, like in just always like kind of riding that high and always like being on top of it and just feeling like awesome, like because I always hit a PR, it would be such an awesome feeling. So just that style of training really kept it fun for me, and like that I loved it. I loved hitting PRs. I loved, you know, even if it was a 5 or 10 pound PR on a one board press plus chain or whatever, there was always a different variation that I could do that I knew I could PR on, and it was an awesome feeling.
Cool. Yeah, I trained like using kind of, you know, I still do West Side principles for like probably about half of my career, and I've kind of developed my own system over the years and kind of tweaked things. But yeah, I think doing those max effort exercises and, like I said, seeing that progress, and you feel good when you hit like a personal record, and you feel, whether, like you said, whether it's 5 pounds or 50 or whatever, or everything in between. And it doesn't matter if it's a safety bar or the straight bar or with chains or whatever. It's like that's the best. That's the most I ever did. And that's a pretty gratifying feeling. So that's definitely really cool. So the other thing I wanted to ask you too, and I know, you know, just before we kind of started recording, we talked about had my friend Meg Squats come over for a seminar, which was great this past weekend. You did a lot of interviews with her on her channel and your channel. You know, just kind of being open about, you know, using performance enhancing drugs. You made some kind of mistakes in like your past, and so can you talk to us about that a little bit, and maybe like some things that you learned, and maybe some things that maybe you do differently if you had to kind of do it all over again?
Yeah, some things I would do differently. Like when I first started out, I was getting some advice from like some bro guys in the gym that was like bodybuilders who didn't compete kind of thing. And, you know, guys, like most guys don't have a lot of experience like with women and PEDs. And I took like everything, like I took test, Winstrol, growth hormone. I took like a lot of other stuff too. And starting out, like knowing what I know now, like all I would have needed was like a very low dose of Anavar for like a long time. And that's what that's how I advise my clients now. And I don't think women should ever take tests. Well, I mean, at least the women I work with, you know, I don't want to ever have that like looming over my head. Like I would never encourage women to take tests. A lot of people do, and they don't care like about the looks, or you know what I mean? Maybe like that's their goal, like just be the best, as strong as you can. For me, that risk, like I made that mistake, and like luckily like it didn't fuck me up too bad, you know, like, but I mean it could have, and it could fuck you up if you take tests. Like those side effects are irreversible, and one day you might wake up and be like, what the fuck have I done to myself? You know, one day long after your powerlifting career is over or whatever. And so that would be some advice that like if you're a woman and you're starting out, you want to know what to take, like whatever you're doing, like 10 milligrams of Anavar, you can do that for a very long time without, you know, having to increase that dose, and you'll see like huge strength gains, huge body composition changes, and yeah, like less is more. Like I've come to learn that over the years. Like even like after, like even like up to a couple years ago, like I was like using a lot, like a really high dose of like EQ and Deca, and not together, but like anyways. And like, and then towards the end of my powerlifting career, like I was just taking a little bit of Anavar, and like I was still hitting PRs, and like I realized like what was the point of taking all that shit? Like I didn't even need to. So less is more.
Yeah, I think I think that kind of goes not just with you know PEDs and everything else. Like, you know, you talk about like, you know, you don't want to train minimal, you don't want to train maximal, you want to train optimal. So finding that like optimal dosage or whatever that may be, whether it be training, nutrition, supplements, I think is really key, because that's going to keep you going longer term. It's not going to affect your health as much, and it's going to keep you in the game longer. If you're in the game longer, that's going to be more progress, more gains in the long run. So are there any kind of like myths about with women and PEDs that you'd kind of like to like shed some light on, or what are some things maybe you've heard that like aren't true, and what are some things that kind of are true, and some of the kind of side effects that people should kind of be looking out for?
Well, the only thing I would say that's not true is like the fact that like it's okay for women to take like tests and trend winning and stuff like that. Like I don't think that that's stuff that a woman should ever take. But I mean, as far as like all the horror stories you hear, like that stuff can happen. Yeah. You know, that stuff can happen. Like all those side effects, you never really know. Even if you're only taking it like a low dose of Anavar, like you never know what's gonna happen, like how your body's gonna react to it. You don't even know that it's gonna really be Anavar. Like I went a whole training cycle thinking I was taking Anavar,
That's a good point.
and I'm pretty sure it was D-ball. Like my blood pressure was like dangerously high.
Yeah.
And like you just never know. Yeah. So I don't know about myths, but like side effects, like if you guys have looked into steroids, like you've read about all the side effects, and it's all true. Like it could all happen to you.
Cool. Yeah, I think that's a good point you brought up about like having a good if you are gonna take that step, making sure it's a reliable source, it's a trustworthy person. Because like if you don't really know what you're taking, that's a risk in itself too. If you don't even know.
Like I would really not recommend buying stuff online unless it's like maybe a peptide or something. But
right.
Definitely I would. I know people who do it, and like men who do it, and it works for them and stuff. But for women, you have to be really careful where you're getting your stuff.
Yeah, I always say there's a lot more risk for the women, especially, and what. It's obviously a very individual question, but what would you say what should I guess your goals be? What would be kind of like the decision maker if maybe someone was on the fence, like should they do it, should they not? Like I said, I'm a big proponent in like trying to like do as much as you can, especially if you're gonna if your goal is to be the best you could be in a non-tested fed, still do as much as you can naturally, especially when you're younger and things like that. Yeah. But what's kind of advice for someone that maybe is on the fence or they're not really sure if they should take the next step or they should kind of just stay.
Well, then if they're on the fence, then no, they shouldn't. If there's any, like if you don't know, don't go. If there's any doubt in your mind and you're just not really sure, don't. You are not ready.
Cool.
And like somebody has to be totally committed and just know that is what they want. And I wouldn't recommend it to anybody training like under like 2 years. Like I think a couple years of like a solid foundation.
Yeah, it's really good.
Really seeing what you're able to do, and before you even think about that stuff.
Yeah, I know some people locally in our area, and it's like they're guys selling stuff to like 21-year-old kids that aren't even a year into powerlifting, and I think it's wrong on so many levels. And like you said, I think a lot of people with this age of Instagram and social media, like we want these results now, and a lot of people are impatient. Like you said, like how about you train for like 2 years, 3 years, 5 years before, and then maybe you start thinking about it. Plus, like you're wasting all those like newbie gains. Like anyway, like save that ace. I would say it's kind of like saving your aces in the hole. Save them for when you actually need them, because when you plateau, as you know, like when you get it, and then you're scrapping for 5-pound PRs, and you know what I mean. It'd be nice to like kind of have that like kind of in the bag if you kind of need it when that. So I think that's really good advice, and so very cool. So next kind of question I wanted to ask if now, so just like let's say a woman and they're maybe just a little intimidated to just go into a powerlifting gym, or they're intimidated to like maybe do their first meet. What advice can you give like a woman who's just kind of starting out and they're looking to get into competing and looking to get into powerlifting for the first time?
My advice would be for them to get in touch with some women in their area who powerlift, because for sure powerlifting is in their area, regardless of where they live. Like there has to be one powerlifter, and most likely there's a female powerlifter, and for sure she was exactly where you were whenever she first started. And like people might look intimidating in the powerlifting community, but they are seriously the most helpful and like welcoming people that you'll ever meet. We've all been that new person, and so we all know what it's like. And at my gym, there's a huge crew of female powerlifters, and I have like my assistant coach. She works there 3 nights a week, and she helps all the new girls or guys, get started on like the programming, because like it can be really overwhelming, especially conjugate, to start.
Sure.
So yeah, I would just recommend getting in touch with a female powerlifter from your community.
Yeah, I agree. Like kind of going back to what you said before, being around positive, like-minded people. So if you're a woman, try to find other women in your area that are training, that kind of have similar goals, similar mindset. And I think success breeds success. So if you're kind of around other successful women, it's only going to kind of push you to another level. So just kind of to the next, kind of goes well to our next point. So you're not just a lifter now. You're a meet promoter. You got a gym. You got a team of ladies that you coach. Pretty awesome stuff. So like,
I coach about 50 guys too.
Nice. So yeah, we don't want to leave them. We don't want to leave them out. But yeah, which is awesome. So like when I first met you, like that was not like what you were doing. You were kind of just more focused on competing. maybe kind of just starting out with those things. So a lot has happened in a couple of years. You've really grown a lot, not just as a lifter, but just as someone promoting the sport and as a businesswoman. So how did that kind of like happen, and what kind of like made you decide that I don't want to just like kind of compete for myself, but I also want to kind of give back to the sport. I want to like have my own gym. What was kind of going through your head, and like what made you decide you wanted to do that?
Well, I think that's every like pro powerlifter's dream is to like make a living. So that's all you have to do. And in the sport, like that's the only way to make it is like become an online coach and own your own gym. And so that's always been like a dream of mine ever since I started. Ever since I started powerlifting, was to just be able to do my own thing. And I used to just love helping girls like get ready for meets and like breaking down meet prep, working backwards from the meet, peaking, helping them do Circumax, writing out meet plans for them, and helping them choose like making a warm up plan and everything, choosing attempts properly. I used to love doing that. Then finally, like AJ was like, "Hey, like you need to start charging for this stuff," and I'm like, "No." Like, and he's like, "Yes." And and I didn't have a lot of confidence, because I'd only been lifting like a couple of years or so, and but I put it out there, and people paid for it, and people hired me. And once I got my first couple paying clients, and I already had like a lot more confidence, and I was able to start promoting myself more. And
cool.
And then yeah, like the goal has always been, to have my own place. And I always hated. There's a bodybuilding gym here, World Gym, and so I always have to like buy my own equipment, specialty equipment, and bring it in there. And yeah, so I always wanted to have our own place where the pack could train. As the pack grew too, there's a huge crew of us, and yeah, it's just like the ultimate dream for me.
It's real funny you say that. When I was a personal trainer, I bought all my own equipment. I was like storing it in my house before I owned my own gym, and kind of similar story. So I think that's really cool. If someone maybe they do have a dream, maybe they do want to be a coach one day, maybe they want to be a gym owner. What are like some steps, or maybe any advice with just like goal setting? What are some steps that people, if they want to be successful, like not just as a lifter, but also like outside of the gym as well?
Well, just gotta make a plan and stick to it. Just like in anything, and especially lifting, you just have to have a solid plan, and you gotta stick to it. And I mean, it's hard to give advice on that because, like, it's a hard world to like make it in.
Sure.
There's like a lot of competition, and I think if you're going to be a gym owner, like you're going to have to cater to a lot more people than just powerlifters for sure. And I do, it's also a CrossFit affiliate. It's hard. It's hard for me to give advice on that. Like all I know is like what worked for me. And I mean, you got to start somewhere, like you got to start with a couple clients and go from there. Right. But there's now with social media, there's a lot you can do to promote yourself online and putting out content on social media, on YouTube. So there's a lot you can do now. Like even from when I started 3 years ago, it's changed a lot.
Yeah. Well, one thing I could say, like maybe I don't think you're maybe giving yourself enough credit. I've seen you put yourself out there a lot. You're putting in the work. So I think that's like if I could, just try to be a little better every day. Like you said, if you have one client, give that person, the greatest experience possible, and that's going to keep
go to their meets, coach them. Like I don't as much now. Now I only go to the big expos pretty much. But like my first couple years of coaching, like I would go to meets almost once, twice a month. I would travel to meets and coach my lifters to handle them, like they want the experience. So make the experience something different than what they're not going to get somewhere else. It's all about the experience and what are they going to remember? Are they going to remember a program that they get every week or every month? Or are they going to remember you slapping their back before they PR their bench press or something?
Love it.
Like, it was always about the experience for me, and I think that's what has helped in my success. Was like I was always there for my lifters in person, or I would host meets and bring them all here. That's what I do now. Like I just had one in September. We had like 36 DCS pack members competing in it. Awesome. I'm holding one February 11th, and I've got already like 30 packsters signed up for it. So
cool.
Yeah, if you build it, they will come.
Yeah, I think that's a good point about actually like. Just showing them you care. Like we were talking before, like, I was in the last 3 weeks. I've been in 3 different states coaching
Yeah,
people, and then I'm going to Pennsylvania this next weekend. But I think again, and that's how you're going to separate because there is a lot of competition. But that's how you're going to separate yourself versus here's
yeah.
this like program. Here you go. Good
Yeah,
luck.
and it's hard.
So
Obviously, it's expensive to travel to all the meets, so I would get, the ones in like the surrounding states to all get ready for the same meet. So I wouldn't just go for one lifter, but I'd go for like 6 or 7.
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Cool. I think that's really awesome advice. So I think we'll probably close out in a bit, but definitely stay on because I want to thank you for coming on after we stop the recording. Where can people find more about you? Maybe they want to get coaching. Maybe they want to come to your gym. Where can people find more about you and just follow what you're doing?
Well, the gym website also has a lot of information on joining the DCS pack. Is sdpowerlifter.com. SD like San Diego. So sdpowerlifter.com. If they're interested in joining the CrossFit gym, it's crossfitdcs.com. DCS stands for Decide, Commit, Succeed. That's the name of our team, the DCS pack. So yeah, there's lots of there's some holiday specials going on right now. We'll just wrapped one up, but there'll be some more over the holidays. So if you're thinking about joining the DCS pack, just send us an email at dcspack@gmail.com, and we'll send you back all the information. So you'll be able to make a better informed decision based on all the information you get back. I'm on social media all over the place. Gracie Vanas on Instagram, YouTube, Gracie V on Facebook. So I'm really easy to reach. Yeah. So just hit me up anywhere, and I'll get back to you.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much, Gracie, for coming on. Really appreciate it. Definitely give her a follow if you're in the area or you're interested in coaching. Just send her a message. She's always gets back to you, which is awesome. If this interview helped you, please share it. Please give this podcast a 5-star review. Helps other people find us. And thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.